can ask for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Secretary, we need to understand the recruiting and retention challenges that the Department of Defense faces this year, and I'm not sure if all the answers provided thus far have clarified it yet, so I have a couple questions on that. The Army's decided to cut active duty strength by 12,000 soldiers in fiscal year 23. Undersecretary Gabe Camarillo said last week, he said, quote, "Like every other employer in the economy, we're facing some challenging conditions in terms of our ability to recruit and attract talent. Given the particular conditions of a very tight labor market, our ability to meet all of our projected recruiting goals were a little bit challenged," unquote. Do you agree with Secretary Camarillo's assessment that it's the tight labor market that's the primary driver of recruitment challenges, at least for the Army?
Thanks, Congressman. I think actually there are a number of things that go into this equation. The fact that unemployment is below 4% is a key issue. But also, if you take a look at the impact of COVID over the last couple of years, as you know, our recruiters recruit a lot of kids out of high school, and those high schools have been in session on an infrequent basis in terms of actual physical presence there. So it's made things more complicated. Chairman mentioned a smaller population to recruit from. So as we combine all of those things, then there are headwinds, and it will be there will be headwinds for all of the services going forward.
I think that's true, but I want to acknowledge here that the objective facts, if we review the objective facts, I think the largest headwind is inescapably the reaction that DOD took to COVID. Let me provide some stats. 2 years ago, right before the pandemic struck, we had the greatest economy in the history of the world. There were recruitment challenges, there have been for many years, but we didn't have the budget request proposing to cut 12,000 soldiers from the Army like this year's budget asked. So what's changed over the last 24 months? It's the department's COVID vaccine mandate, and there's just no way around it. I mean, some have alluded to it already today, but requiring young men and women to take the vaccine has disqualified a huge portion of the population from military service. And here's some proof. Nationwide, more than 40% of males aged 18 to 24 have chosen not to become fully vaccinated, and as a result, they're now ineligible to join the military, right? Off the bat, that's 40% of the target demographic that's immediately ineligible to serve. I mean, this is just a fact. In the southeast portion of the country, where I'm from, that number is even greater. According to CDC, 52% of 18 to 24-year-old men in that region have chosen not to receive the vaccine. So why does that specific geographic region matter so much? What makes the Southeast important is that according to Undersecretary of Defense for Personnel and Readiness, southern states produced nearly 47% of military enlistments in 2019. That's Georgia, South Carolina, Florida, Virginia, Missouri, Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas. Fertile ground for DOD recruiters. But these states send their sons and daughters to serve the nation at drastically higher rates than other states do. They contain only 38% of 18 to 24-year-olds in America, but they account for nearly half of all the enlistments. So I understand what's being said about the tight labor market and the inability to meet fitness standards and all the rest, but it's pretty plain, if we look at this, that DOD is having a recruiting and retention crisis because it has disqualified over half of the male population from serving in the military in its best recruiting grounds, and nearly 40% of men and women aged 18 to 24 nationwide. And then we're adding fuel to the crisis because there's this charade about the religious exemption process for service members, and I believe it's blatantly unconstitutional. Let me ask you quickly in the time that remains, in light of the obvious impact on recruitment and retention, does the department have any plans to repeal or modify the current COVID vaccine requirement?
I do not.
Let me ask you, if you can tell us how many religious exemptions to the COVID vaccine have been granted across all services. And I'll note that in February, 15 exemptions were granted out of 16,000 applications.
Okay, I'm going to take that question and other COVID questions for the record. As you know, this is an issue in litigation, and so I'll take your questions for the record.
Well, in the 40 seconds I have remaining, I'll just state the obvious, what a lot of people back home are asking me and asking all of us, and that is, if it's so obvious that a vaccine mandate is causing this deficit in the number of troops, then why don't we just change it? I mean, COVID seems to be behind us.
I certainly disagree with your premise.
Well, I know you do, but I mean, obviously it's having a direct effect on our numbers of recruitment and retention and readiness, which is of great concern to all of us. And I know you're not going to change your mind here today, but I'm registering the concern of my district and many millions of Americans that we represent who share this opinion, and I hope that you'll take it under advisement. I yield back.
Thank you.